And we partner with the class and the provost office to put on the emerging trends. Let's see. Just one quick announcement. Next February will be our the next emerging trend. We're going to skip January because it's a tough month for everybody. So look for the email on that, and it's going to be on a good topic, not as fun as this one. It's going to be on copyright and the Aries course request system, which we have, course reserve system, which we have in the Blackboard as an integration piece. So you can learn about how to request your e-reserves through Blackboard. Today we have with us Dr. Cristian Moroson, and he's an associate professor in the Conrad Hilton College. He conducts research in information technology, specifically on biometric systems, mobile applications, and security issues in the travel industry. And he teaches courses in information technology, marketing, and management. In 2013, he started teaching with an iPad, completely redesigning and his required first-year experience course. He has received the Teaching Excellence Award for Innovation in Instructional Technology. That was in 2016. And he's presented extensively about his experiences in adding the iPad to the portfolio of teaching tools. In addition to thanking him for presenting today, we are very grateful for contributing to our instruction at UH blog. And if you haven't seen that, please take a look. Just type in instruction.uh.edu and learn all about UH in terms of technology and instructional design. All right, well, please help me welcome Dr. Cristian Moroson.
Well, thank you everybody for coming this morning. Can you hear me without the microphone? I tend to move around a lot. This is how I see what my students are doing in class, what I teach, and it's amazing what kind of stuff that you see. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me here. It's an honor and a privilege to be invited. I've been coming to these talks for a while now, and I thought, oh my gosh, maybe one day they'll invite me here. I'm excited to be here, so again, thank you so much. I also would like to thank the media team for working with me to help put together this presentation. I hope that everything goes right. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Right now, everything works as it should, but you never know, throughout the presentation, we may need to revert back to the wired way of connecting devices, which is basically the traditional way. And also I would like to recognize, she's not here, but I would like to recognize my associate dean, Dr. Mary Dawson, for opening my eyes to this kind of experiences. I remember one time we were sitting in, for lunch, and then we thought, well, it would be cool if we were changing the way we teach based on technology. So I said, well, maybe we can use iPads in the classroom, because I used tablets before. And then from there, we just moved on and we changed completely the way we teach, and I'm very happy about that. So thank you to everybody for attending my talk. I'll be talking about my own experiences in using the iPads in the classroom. I've been through a number of iPads so far, and this is the latest one that I have. I really like it. So I'll just be sharing my experiences with you today. I own it. I mean, I tend to speak really fast when I'm excited about this kind of stuff. So please stop me if I speak too fast, or if there's something in my presentation that you haven't completely understood. I'll be happy to go back and repeat it. So I want to talk again just a little bit about the iPad, and I'll try to make annotations to this platform and just go from there. Now, the first thing that comes to mind when teaching with the iPad is, how do we teach? How do we present our information to the students? And how do we go and present information at conferences? And one of the first things, again, that comes to mind is the PowerPoint mindset, right? I remember back in the day, I used to work with the regional government in my home country, Romania. And because I was speaking multiple languages, they used me as a translator as well. So they asked me to translate things about like demographics, psychographic characteristics of the population in the region to a bunch of people from different delegations. And every single time they had a delegation, I had to present basically exactly the same stuff. And I run across different PowerPoint-like platforms. And I said, well, that's a cool idea. You just have to structure the presentation in a way that is easy to present, and you also use it as a safety blanket, right? So it's right there for me. I don't have to memorize all that stuff. I don't have to even pay attention that much. I'll just use it. So that basically is what I call the PowerPoint mindset, which we all have, right? And it started with the oldies version, and then it became a little bit more interesting, right? You can do more stuff with it, to the point where you can use a lot of like nicely designed templates, and you can collaborate with others. And now you have 365, where if you put it on the iPad, you don't even need to save the stuff. I mean, that's really amazing things that you can do with it, and it's becoming so important. Everybody is using it, and everybody expects that you have something like this when you go and present in a class or in a professional presentation at a conference, right? So that's our mindset. This is really interesting for us to keep in mind. Now, this mindset, right, gets us into a very linear way of presenting things. And that basically detracts a little bit from what the presentation should be. Because the presentation should be persuasive, right? We want people to get engaged for us with the material that we present, and with the manner in which we present the material to the students, to people in the audience at conferences and things like that. We want people to elaborate, to think about what it is presented, right? We want people to move to a central route of processing so that they can actually change attitude in a more durable way and so on. But we will settle even for less, right? We will try to present things that only will allow heuristics to play a role in their persuasion. So we want to make things persuasive. We want things to be remembered from what we say and make an experience that is memorable for both the students and people in the audiences, right? Well, we also want the students to reach higher levels of bloom, right? I mean, in our presentations, we want people to elaborate, to think, to evaluate, to be able to produce analyses, to be able to synthesize stuff when they recreate what we present or when they take notes and things like that. And sometimes the very nature of the PowerPoint presentation prevents that from happening, and it's not really what it doesn't really do what it's supposed to be doing. And that's because the PowerPoint structure or the PowerPoint mindset is very linear. And in a way, it's probably the best compromise between what you should present and the chronological nature of the presentation, right? Everything is supposed to be 1, 2, 3, and it goes on and on and on. And it's very difficult when you have a linear presentation like this to move sideways, to enhance the content, and to do stuff that will engage the people. And I remember the first time when I taught I would call it my signature class, the IT and the hospitality industry. I was teaching in a room that was not renovated at the time, and I had a computer on the console pretty much like here, and also I had a screen. It was a large screen, probably larger than this. It was very nice because you can see everything. The projector was bright, you can see the colors, so you can enhance the presentation that way. But I also had a number of chalkboards. And I would go back and forth between the screen and the chalkboards to write stuff and to enhance the lecture. And man, I felt like I'm a teacher, right? Like my hands were full of chalk dust, and like my clothes were dirty. And I said, man, that's cool. It's cool to be a teacher, right? I really like it. And then they renovated the room. Thank you, Dr. Bowen. He was the dean at the time. So they renovated the room. They made it really absolutely nice. It has one of the best acoustics ever. And I'm telling you this because I was a former musician, and I really appreciate rooms with good acoustics. It's absolutely an incredible room to teach in. But they removed the boards. So now, what do? I have to go back and forth because, again, the linear structure of the PowerPoint needs to be changed, right? So just change it. Change the PowerPoint structure. How do you get away? Because you need to move away in order to enhance the presentation. You need to go sideways in order to add things that will engage the students and will make the stuff come alive much more in the classroom than the regular structured way in which you predetermine the stuff. Another thing that is really important, and I want to mention it, is this very linear structure is very preset, right? In the absence of really good editing tools on the PowerPoint, you don't have an opportunity to move sideways and basically record what was said and what was discussed in that particular interaction set. And this is blurred intentional, right? The projector is not wrong, so I just blurred the content. It's one of the apps that I use for this. But again, in order to do this properly, you have to have the tools. But the tools don't allow you to add more into the content that was already pre-made. And I remember, like those of you who teach multiple sections of the same class, and even the same class over and over again, you'll know that as much as you try to make it consistent, and similar from section to section or from meeting to meeting, you're not going to be able to do that completely. Because every group dynamic is different, every day is different. You feel different every day in which you go in class and teach. And so how you make this information come alive and you adapt it to each instance in which you communicate the content to the students or to people in the audience at a conference makes the whole difference. So I thought, well, you know, what can we do? What can we do? And I always struggle with this. In the past, I used to use flip charts and chalkboards and whiteboards and all sorts of stuff that basically allows me to enhance the presentation and to give more than just the regular PowerPoint. PowerPoint is limited, again, also because you can only add so much to a particular slide. And I've seen different rules. They say 3 bullet points, and others say 5, and others put a lot of stuff. They start reading from there. And that's not the way I think we're supposed to be teaching. So back in the day, I remember one time I was at the University of St. Thomas before coming here, and I was teaching in the business school there. And I had a trip to Austin, and my wife had to give a talk at UT in Austin, and I just had nothing to do. So I went to I ended up at the Staples store, I think. I was Staples, right? So I said, what should I do at Staples? I saw this tablet that you see on the screen, a Wacom tablet. And I said, if I buy it, will my dean pay for it? I said, well, it doesn't matter. It looks cool. So I bought it, and I went in, and I started working with it. So the way I work with this, I hooked it up to a computer through Photoshop in the class. And then the computer will have a VGA out into the projector, and basically what you write on this tablet, you can't see anything, but people will be able to see it on the screen. So it will take a little bit of adjustment to be able to enhance, to move from that PowerPoint, the normal PowerPoint that you have, that's the backbone of the structure of the class, in this kind of tablet. And I said, well, it has potential. It's a little bit difficult to switch. It's a little bit latent to switch from the PowerPoint to the Photoshop. But eventually, it works out because you can enrich this thing. And you can customize buttons here. You can do a variety of things. The pen itself has an eraser at the other end. You just turn it around and it will erase. The only thing is that you don't see what you write on it. And I said, well, that was interesting. I'll keep using it. And I moved here. I have to give it back to the college. And when I moved here, in the meantime, the iPads became really interesting tools, not necessarily for business, but for leisure, right? They were mainly designed and created to enhance some of the hedonic benefits or the hedonic tasks that consumers do. Like, why would you sit on the couch with a 2000 laptop in your hand and just reply to emails when you need basically a nice screen with a nice user interface, with a lower processor, but still can handle email, right, where the TV is on. So I moved on to other kinds of tablets, to the newer tablets. And this is my current tablet, an iPad Pro, which I really like. And I like it because it has this stylus pen. The stylus pen and the touchscreen interface is absolutely amazing on this kind of technology. It allows me to do stuff, to write with more precision and to be able to engage in multiple tasks that were not necessarily possible before with previous versions of the iPad. But I started with an iPad 2 back in 2013, and over time I changed a few. We bought a few for the class, and the students were using them in the class, and basically that's how it all started. I started to learn how to use these tools in the class and how to basically adapt my own style of teaching to using these technologies to do more in class than I could have done using the traditional PowerPoint computer and just regular presentation tools. So what I found through my own experiences is that these systems have a number of attributes that are absolutely critical for someone from an adoption point of view. Like when I was looking at this, I saw a system that would allow me to facilitate a task. And for me, the task was to communicate more appropriately, to communicate only the stuff that is relevant by removing the stuff that is not relevant at a certain time in the lecture, right? So I viewed it from the prism of the research that I was doing, and we did a lot of research on technology adoption. Technology adoption is a very interesting field of research. A lot of it is guided by a theory that is called the technology acceptance model. It's basically a theory that says that a system, any technology, and you can reflect upon the technologies that you all use for your own leisure or for your own business. A technology has to be driven by usefulness, has to be characterized by ease of use, and eventually some other characteristics that pertain to the more hedonic use of the device or the system, right? And it has to be facilitating the task that you're planning to use the technology for. So I conducted a lot of research with the TAM in the past, to the extent to which people, when I go to conferences and present on the TAM, people have fun, say, well, you name your son with the initials TAM. My son's initials are Tyler Anderson Morrison's TAM, right? But it's not true, it's just a coincidence. But it's a great theory, right? So going back to the theory, I said, well, I need a system that will be superior to everything else. I need a system that will be easy to use, that will allow me to be excited about it. And because I'm excited, maybe my excitement would be contagious, and others would be excited, right? Agnes? Okay, so I wanted a system that does the job, being easy to use, and also I can play with it so I can figure out more stuff to do with the students that is really interesting for them and engages them. So I can characterize the iPad and the whole utilization of the iPad based on three main criteria. User experience, which is absolutely amazing, and Apple has done a great job in enhancing the user experience. They say sometimes the user experience prevails to the quality of the hardware, and I think that's absolutely true with the Apple systems. I really like it because of the user experience. And I could buy some other technologies that are probably superior in what they do, but it's the user experience that matters to me, and it's so easy to use, and it works very well with what I do that I wanted to use this. I also have to view the system as a piece of technology that is characterized by hardware that is stable. It does the job in a very stable way. Of course, it's still a little bit finicky. I mean, there's no technology that is perfect, but look, I mean, I don't want to jinx it or anything, but it works perfectly 10 minutes into the presentation, and hopefully it will work. And if it doesn't work, we'll go back to the VGA cabling and so on, and hopefully it will work from there. But I go to class every day with this philosophy in mind, and I say, hey, this is a system that works, and it has worked for 99% of the time. The software allows me to do stuff that was not necessarily possible or is difficult to do with other platforms. So it's the combination of hardware and software that allows me to basically engage really well and to really understand the tasks that I'm doing, and not only understand the tasks, what I'm doing, just moving forward to other tasks that I never thought that could ever do using other technologies. But also, we can attach peripherals. And to some extent, from a cost point of view, this is slightly difficult with the Apple ecosystem because you probably have to buy a lot of their own hardware in order to work properly. But that's OK, because if you buy just the peripherals that you need, they will work properly, and they're designed to work together, and that's pretty cool. And since I spoke about the ecosystem, that's probably one of the most important attributes. The ecosystem basically represents the hardware, software, the business models, the payments, the way they distribute the hardware, the software, the security protocols, and all this stuff that creates task accomplishment protocols or behaviors inside of an operating system that allows you to do this very, very seamlessly. So I praise the Apple ecosystem for this because it's very rich. It allows me to find the stuff that I need there in order to be as creative as possible and just be myself in the classroom when I present to conferences. The drivers for me of these ecosystems are first, number one, the size. You can find a lot of things that are good. For example, if you want to find PDF annotation tools, you'll find a lot of redundancy because there's a lot of apps that are continuously developed to that. If you want other illustration tools, there are quite a few apps for that. And basically, the phrase, there's an app for that, illustrates how big the Apple ecosystem is. Now, again, there are only a few ecosystems, and others are catching up, right? So everybody's talking now about the Android's ecosystem, how it's being fragmented, but how kind of goes back to becoming really, really important because a lot of people adopt the hardware themselves. So size, popularity, and eventually reliability of the ecosystem itself, and the trust that they can create software and business models that I can use properly in the classroom or for whatever purpose I do. So I want to emphasize a number of opportunities that I think are important to discuss in a talk about utilization of the iPad in the classroom. And it's interesting to see how these opportunities can materialize in classes, and I'm absolutely certain that not everything that I say or not everything that I mention as opportunity fits for everybody's class, everybody's teaching style, everybody's personality. But I'll share some of the opportunities that I see from my own prism, from my own discipline, and my own teaching style. If you want to use the iPad to engage in a linear presentation, kind of pedagogy, right? If you want to still use the PowerPoint, but you add some more stuff to it, you can definitely use that, right? So linear presentation tools are absolutely available. PowerPoint exists. I used to use Keynote for a while just to see how it is. I like the Keynote platform on the computer because it's so easy to use. And at the time when I adopted this software, it had better templates than the PowerPoint. So I really liked the templates. They were more contemporary looking. They were easier to adapt, especially in the masters and things like that. So that was nice. And then Microsoft came back with newer versions of PowerPoint, which were nice. They adopted the 16.9 screens and things like that. So they created a lot of nicer templates. And they moved on the mobile world. And that was really interesting. So when they moved on the mobile world, you can basically adapt the same content that you would use on a computer, and you'll keep basically the same structure. You'll also keep the animations, which is something that is missing in the PDF annotation tools that I normally use. So again, if you are into linear presentation, or if you teach something that requires you to go linear, step by step, in a very chronological way, you can still do that very well. In fact, I think the new PowerPoint app allows you to basically do a lot more editing than before. You can save the edits. It's the same with Keynote. Keynote allows you to basically re-edit everything, and you can create presentations in there. And you can use these platforms if you save your files in the cloud. For example, Microsoft 365 works really well across platforms. And sometimes I go in class and I can present from the phone. And the students or people at conferences say, well, where is your computer? Well, I don't have a computer with me. It's easier for the TSA check if I don't have a computer and I have an iPad only. So yeah, it's absolutely true. So again, if you are interested in this, that's absolutely an amazing set of tools. Acrobat, or handling of PDF files, is absolutely amazing using this particular tool. And if you, for example, have a presentation like I do, have some of them with animations because I don't want all the content to be revealed at the same time, you can save the PowerPoint slides as PDFs, and you can recognize the animations, and you can move forward, and the PDF tool will still retain the animations, right? So that's really interesting if you want to have different organizational charts or flow charts or things that are dynamic in nature, and you want to show that dynamic in the presentation. You can definitely do that. So again, for linear presentation or for slower adoption of newer tools, if you're, I don't know, characterized by a little bit of technology anxiety, right? People sometimes do feel that they will use the technology and will make mistakes that they'll never be able to correct, right? They can use this and they will still basically learn little by little or become more comfortable in the classroom. Another important component is the cloud storage connectivity. And I think this is just an amazing tool because you can store to some extent on the device, but you can always connect to a cloud storage. Right, so I connect through OneDrive. OneDrive is really generous, like 1 terabyte of storage. Come on, it's like, what can you put there to have it? I mean, it depends on what you teach. If you teach media, and you have a lot of large files and things like that. So the cloud storage allows you to have every single thing in one platform when you carry it with you, right? Now you have to think about the security connotations of that, and that's really important, especially when you go through travel and TSA and stuff like that. But OneDrive and all the other, like Dropbox or whatever you want to link to it, allows you to find the material that is absolutely necessary for you to show in a certain setting without much effort and without the limitations of, but it was on that drive and I can't really access it. No, you have it access. And you can make it available on the device even if you don't have a Wi-Fi connectivity or it's somehow available to you directly, right? So the cloud storage is amazing. Okay, so that's really good. One of my favorite tools, and I can spend days talking about this, is illustration and PDF annotation. And normally, a tool like this, so let's see if, it's doing this. Normally, a tool like this, I'm using Doceri right now. So Doceri is one of my favorite apps to use for annotation. It has a number of advantages that I think are really, really important for me in my own teaching style. What I like to do is to still create or edit the main structure of the class or the presentation using a traditional linear presentation software like Keynote, right, or PowerPoint. It's basically the same kind of format. And from there, I add stuff or I remove stuff, or I can zoom in like this, and that becomes basically Prezi on your device right there without necessarily having to connect to an internet connection, right? And so Dossier is really interesting because you can set it up that you can see, like basically to mirror all of the stuff that you can see on the screen like this, or you can zoom it only on your device, but the audience will see just the regular size screen without necessarily zooming in. That's a feature that you have in other software, such as, for example, Notability Sketch or Sketches that allow you to have all these annotation tools in addition to zooming in and out, and you can focus on particular parts of the material and so on. Yes?
So are all of those available like through the university, or do we have to purchase them?
Right, that's a great question. The question was if the tools that I'm showing are available through the university or you have to purchase them. The answer is it depends. Which I understand is very limited. So Microsoft 365 is available through the university. OneDrive is available through the university. Keynote is available through your own, like if you're an Apple subscriber, you'll have access to that platform as well. A lot of these tools, Dossier, Notability, Sketch, these are, many times they're free, but in a lot of cases you have to pay for them, but you have to pay a very small amount for them. So for example, Dossier is free, but it provides only the basic version of the app. And the basic version of the app, basically, the only difference between the basic version and the more advanced version is that you have a watermark with their logo on it. So when you present it in class, the students will say it's made by Dossier, which is not a big deal, but I wanted to pay the $5 to get rid of that, and I was able to add some more stuff. So again, I'm coming back to what do you have to pay for it and things like that. I always view software and hardware based on the value proposition. To what extent, not necessarily cost versus benefits, but more like intangible benefits. To what extent it allows me to do much more than what I pay for it. So I'm thinking, if I have to pay $5 or $10 or $15 for an app to do stuff that I cannot do with the free apps or the free secure apps, then I'll definitely pay the money for it. But I always, when I talk to the students, when I talk to other people who are enthusiastic about this, I always advise, my philosophy is that I shouldn't pay a ton of money for this, right? The ecosystem is so rich in tools that are good and valuable and secure that you basically will have to search and find one that is really valuable without necessarily spending a ton of money. So that's the principle that I tell to the student. I tell my students, I don't want them to spend extra money. They're spending probably a lot of money on a lot of educational tools as it is. Did I answer your question? Awesome, thank you. Any other questions? I'm excited about this. I'm moving at my own pace, but if you have questions, please feel free to stop me and ask anything. So Dossier is the app that you will see here, and that's absolutely amazing. I used to use it. The only problem is that you can't really import PDF decks, right? So you create a PDF, you create a PowerPoint deck or a Keynote deck, and you save it as a PDF file. It has all the slides, like 50 slides or whatever. You can't really import them directly as you do in other apps. You'll have to take them page by page. In the beginning, I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be a nightmare. But even for classes that require maybe 25 slides, I don't think it's a big deal. It takes about 5 minutes to save every single slide as a picture and then bring it back as a background, and then you add it to each slide and then move on, and eventually it serves as the background. You also have a number of backgrounds that are provided to you. So I'll just show you one that I really like. Let me see if I see the screen. So first of all, you have a lot of colors as background, but you have a lot of patterns as well. So you can have, for example, graph. Come on. It doesn't show it in here, but I'll try to. Yeah, it's probably because I have already a background. But anyway, so you can add a lot of these backgrounds to the slides, and you have, for example, maps and things of that nature. So it's a little later. So for example, I use the map of the United States when I discuss segmentation in different classes. there's a lot of stuff that you can do. You have music kind of backgrounds and pretty much everything that you can imagine, or you can create your own. Another interesting feature with this, I want to move a little bit more to screencasting. Screencasting is a very tricky process. If you want, if you're a perfectionist and if you want to do it properly, it will take a long time. And that's because of our own human nature. People tend to make errors when they record and they say something and then they say, well, maybe I should have said this, and then they're not happy, they try to redo it and they make a mistake somewhere else, right? I mean, we all have been through this kind of stuff. And for the most part, we use Camtasia and some other tools, and we pre-record and then we go back and edit and things like that. So for the most part, what we do is we put a set of slides in front of us, and then we start talking about that. And then by the time we finish talking on one slide, then we forget the transition and we forget what's on the next slide. So it takes a lot of preparation, it takes a lot of takes to do it right and so on. So what I found, I was playing one day with Doceri, and I said, well, it has this recording button right there, right? So what it allows you to do, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this because the system is basically sending out signal through AirPlay through the computer, and the computer takes it out, so it messes up a little bit its functions. But if you do it in a standalone mode, you can do something really amazing. And that is, you can start the recording, talk a little bit about something, pause the recording, move on to the next slide, see what's there, go back to the original slide, talk about your transition to the next slide, right, while you continue the recording. And in about, 20 minutes, you are done with the recording of a screencast almost without error. Well, I call that amazing, right? So that's really cool. I like to do this, and I remember once I did some video lectures, and I dedicated a lot of time to, I thought I would take a long time to finish this, but in reality, it took a shorter time because I was making fewer mistakes, because I was really getting the content that I needed to get on tape and so on. The only problem with that philosophy is that you have to be in a room that is free of background noise. Go to some place where the air conditioning is not working or something like that, or just break it or whatever. But you will capture, because the system is designed to use this very, they say it's okay quality, but it's not the professional quality that you would expect in a really nice recording. So I even talked to Doceri a few times. I was asking them, I was trying to get input, analog input from a nice professional microphone like a Shure SM58 or a 57 that enhances the mids a little bit, to get that signal into the video recording. And they said, well, try this, try that. I wasn't able to do anything about that until I found an interface, and with that, I was able to record sound from a traditional microphone, like a capsule like that, basically. But you get that fat sound like NPR. So that was really, really interesting. So then I said, well, that's a great platform. I really like it. And then Michael Scott, my good friend, came, hey, have you heard of Nomia? And then there's a bunch of others that allow you to do basically the same stuff in addition to just screencasting. They're basically putting up a background and recording basically what you see or draw on the screen. You can do, for example, a screencast. You can add elements to it. It is like a similar version of iMovie or image video editing software on a single platform like this, while you add, for example, your full face like this on the screen, or you want to add it in a part of the screen like this, you can definitely do that, right? So you will have a variety of tools for you to basically, move this around wherever you want it to be, and just, customize it the way you think the students should see it. So again, this is absolutely an amazing platform. I use it all the time. Where I have used it, I moved to some others, like Notability allows me to do much more stuff, not just PDF annotation for class presentations, in live presentations, but also presentations, for example, for conferences. Let me just show it to you. So this is Notability. I have this paper, and what I can do is to highlight stuff like we would normally do in the PDF scenario. I use this for grading or for reviewing my graduate students' work, and after this I can basically annotate really well and save it and send it out to the students. And I think it's much better, at least in my opinion, than those, I don't know how many of you are annoyed by the small comment box in Word. I mean, that drives me insane. So by using this kind of technology, and you can customize different colors and patterns and things like that, right? So So you can customize it and basically obtain the result that you really, really wanted. And then you can save it and also can record it. That's really cool. So if you want to add audio notes to this, you can definitely do that. And then if you change your mind and say, well, you graded someone and it turned out that you were too harsh, then you can do this and just with one stroke, you can erase everything, right? So that's really a very, very cool tool. And you can take this and you can use the normal iPad tools to edit everything. You can type, right? Because sometimes how I write is not really understandable. It's not that I have, bad handwriting. I just use my own font. But I mean, it's not mine. I heard it somewhere. Yes.
Can you embed things in there, like videos or images?
You probably can. I never tried it. Oh, the question was if you can embed things into the support of the PowerPoint. And I think you probably can. I never tried it. I don't necessarily embed things. The material that I teach doesn't require me to embed things.
That link you can click up.
Oh yeah, the links should be valid. Yeah, so the links should be good in. Not in all the apps. So Doceri is basically an illustration app. I don't think the links would work there because they see it as just an image. But in other apps that are retaining more from the traditional PDF structure of the document, probably you'll see live links and things like that. So you can definitely point out to links and it'll show, and you'll go forward from there. Did I answer your question? Okay. Any other questions before we move on? So that's Notability. I really like it a lot. It's very easy to import things into here. You can basically have links to save PDF files. I save the papers in there. I use it quite a lot in editing, and you can save everything and send it out. It's linked to basically folder structures, and you can eventually do a variety of things with it. So going back to Doceri, we talked about screencasting, which is absolutely important now that we move more and more towards online education. And I think this saves us a lot of time and allows us to basically recycle through lectures. I've seen situations in which people will create a lecture and they'll say, oh my gosh, it took me so long to create this. I'm not going to do it for an error that we had. So that definitely speeds up things. Also, it's very important to recognize that there are small ecosystems, or sometimes they become really large, within the iOS ecosystem, right? So for example, Evernote has its own ecosystem. You can log in on one device, you can put content in Evernote, and you can present from it, you can annotate it, you can edit it, and so on, and it'll be okay throughout all the devices that you want to use, right? So you want to present it from an iPad, you can. You want to present it from a phone, you can, or on the computer, and you can make changes to it, and it'll still save there, and that represents their own ecosystem. Nomia is another one. Goodreader is another one. You can push files, for example, electronically to the students. You can create this stuff. I try to stay away from these ecosystems in classes because, first of all, I don't think I should require my students to sign up for anything other than what they're signed up in class. So that's one thing. The second principle is that they already are already registered with the Blackboard ecosystem. So that's their main ecosystem for participating in the class, and I try to keep things simple for them in order to allow them for a better management of things. And finally, there are a lot of opportunities beyond the classroom, right? And when I say beyond the classroom, I'm saying beyond live lecturing. I mean, this is absolutely a great tool to do live lecturing, to present in front of the audience. And I'm just happy that I can get like a nice remote tool that I can go and go in class to my students and do something like this. Let me show it to you. So I start the lectures with what I call the story of the day. I hope you don't necessarily, I hope you don't necessarily see the logo that I show here. So what I have here is basically an image that stays in the background but is masked by basically white paint, right? So I painted everything with this white paint tool. It's my response to animation in Doceri, right? So I don't have an animation tool like in PowerPoint to animate things, to mask things, but what I do is I basically block everything with white paint. So now I go in class and I do this, right? I just do a stroke and I allow people to say, hey, like, let's guess this logo, and the students really like this stuff. You want to try it? Try it. I mean, it's really cool. You scratch it as if you scratch a lotto ticket until somebody will guess. Whose logo is this? American Airlines, that's excellent, right? So, and then we start a discussion on American Airlines, right? And we move on, and we try again, right? And Johnny, want to try this? Okay, so there's nothing, then move up. Oh my gosh, you found it. Oh, that is really cool, right?
Is that in
Oh, no, it's hotter, yeah. See, so all of a sudden, if you do this in the first 5 minutes of the class, you already have the class somehow with you, right? So they say, well, what's this? And they try to guess, and they try to see it, right? So this is Sabre. It's a global distribution company. But this is one of the stories, that, and then we go into discussing what Sabre is and what did they do with American Airlines. And then you go back to the talks, and yeah, one problem with those areas is that it doesn't necessarily go back to where you were. You have to go back by yourself. But again, it allows you to do a lot of interactive things. And you know, the eraser tool is just a great tool to kind of mimic animation. And I like to use it. I created at some point a video. I thought, why should you use basically a like 10 or 15 minute video that you hope that the students would watch, and they'll watch probably the first 5 minutes and then it'll just drop, okay? I said, maybe they'll watch the first minute, and in that minute I can just, you know, provide an idea about the structure of the class, and they can go and select, basically read the book, or go through the full lecture, or go through the shorter lecture. And I designed something like this. Let me see if I can find it here. So I said, you know, we'll take one chapter from the book is hotel systems, right? That's what I teach. And I'll just condense it in 1 minute videos, like a video infograph. And I also was a musician some time ago, and I like to play with music. I say, well, I'll create my own music so that I don't have to pay, you know, fees for somebody else's music. So this is what I did. I hope it works. So basically, it's a PowerPoint slide. It's actually a keynote slide with all the text, and I imported it as an image in Doceri as a background. I started basically putting white paint over it, but starting in reverse, starting from the lower right corner. And I did this in reverse. I recorded this, and then I put it back. I took the video, put it in the iMovie, reversed the movie, made it 4 times faster, saved it, and then put the music on top of it, and this is what we got. So I showed it to some of my friends, and they said, well, you need to do a video about how you do these videos. I showed it to my students. They said, wow, this would be really cool for a review, right? I mean, it would be nice, a nice review. So I'm still working on the other chapters, but this is basically one of the things that I use Doceri for. So I really enjoyed it. I did it when like half of one night. I like to clear my mind. I really enjoyed the stuff, so I'll just stop it here and move on. But again, that was really interesting, and I created some other pieces, and I remember Dr. DeFranco didn't like the music on one. She said that it was too dark or whatever, but but this is supposed to be like nice, cheerful, and so on. Yes, ma'am.
When you saved that as a Doceri, what type of file, and then you transferred it to iMovie, and then you transferred it back?
That's a great question. The question was, what kind of format does it save? It says the Doceri saves as the MP4. So it's easy to take it out and you just basically play with it in other editing software. I remember one time when I was doing this for the first time, I was recording some videos for a cost control class that I was teaching, and that involved a lot of Excel calculations. So I did basically a screencast using QuickTime on the Mac, right? So I just split the screen into a different section, and I just played with Excel, and I did all the calculations. And the file was super big. And then I did the lecture on Doceri with the MP4 format, and I said, oh my gosh, that's like half of the size. And the beauty of it is this, like you can go into something like this, you record it, and you go to your recordings, and then you can have all of these upload tools. And you can upload directly, for example, to your channel on YouTube, or you can save it directly to Dropbox. So you don't have a lot of problems manipulating the file, like changing the file from one device to another. So that's really, really interesting. I'm also blessed that in our college we have about like what, 120 megabits per second, which is absolutely amazing. for download and about the same for upload, which is really cool. So when we try to move files from the device, it's absolutely easy to just move them out there. So just do it in school. So again, you have a lot of opportunities to move stuff around and to just play with it and eventually gain more value there. Let me go back to where we were. So again, beyond the classroom, you can use this. I use this to travel to conferences. I don't carry my computer with me. And all I need to do for conferencing is I carry this dongle with me. This is a VGA to Thunderbolt dongle. You buy it. It's really expensive from Mac. It's like $40. But trust me, when you don't have to carry your big computer with you to the conference, when you have to go through security, and if I'm global entry, so I don't necessarily have to take it out. They don't ask me to take it out. But you go to a conference and you present in a very interactive way like this, and all you need is the dongle to connect to the VGA cord that goes into the computer, and you don't have to upload your file into anybody else's computer like we normally do at conferences, right? Or put my flash drive there so I can get whatever malware they have, right? Or maybe go and log in to their computer on my Dropbox account, and who knows, maybe they have a keylogger or something like that, right? So that prevents me from all these what if questions, right? So I use it for grading quite a lot, although I have to recognize it as a weakness sometimes. Blackboard is not really aligned with the mobile world, so it's difficult. For example, when you have a class that has a large number of students, it's difficult to navigate through the grade center to like go to a particular grade of someone and go from there. But again, there's just a lot of opportunities, and what I learned, like how I learned about this is just by talking with different people. They would come to me and say, hey, have you tried this? I heard that this is really good. So, oh, let me try it. Cool. I mean, I want to go in class and try it. And the students, to some extent, are very understanding. They say, well, this is a cool thing. We'll let the professor try it, and hopefully it works. And we always have a backup plan. Like I go in class, and I always have my slides in PDF format uploaded for the students on Blackboard. And if something doesn't work, I always go back to the PC of the class, which is sacrilege for me, but I do that sometimes. I go back and I find the slides and I just move on like everybody else and just do the presentation. So again, just a lot of opportunities that exist out there for this kind of device and this kind of style of teaching. I think it changed completely the way I interact with my material in class or at conferences and the way I expect to see things and so on. But there are a few challenges as well, right? So one of the things, talking about iPad systems in iOS, right, is the cost, right? And if you view the cost as in like a concept that relates to the benefits of using the technology or facilitating the task that you have to facilitate, I think it's important to recognize that the cost, even if it's high in dollar value, it probably corresponds to a good value, and you can eventually develop something really valuable in terms of an educational experience for the students or a great experience for you to teach like this. There are also issues, I mean, I wouldn't call them necessarily issues, but I have to recognize the natural idiosyncrasies of the ecosystem itself, right? I mean, we know that Apple, they try to develop this and that, and they move forward with a lot of stuff. And of course, like, there's a lot of people who like them, there's a lot of people who don't like them, but they do have stuff that is unique, right? They come with all these systems and they say, hey, we promise you that we'll deliver a great experience to you. And to what extent that is a great experience, it's up to everybody to decide, right? But they do have their own system, their own ways, and that sometimes can create a problem for someone to adopt these technologies open-hearted. For example, iCloud. There are people who say, well, we love iCloud. Others who say, well, we don't really like iCloud. It's absolutely different. Others say, the ecosystem itself, oh, we love it, right? I mean, I'll draw a heart as big as possible, right? Because it's really, really nice. Everybody enjoys these ecosystems and what you can find in it, and how you can relate to it, how simple it is for you to download or to update your applications, and how easy it is for you to service the hardware. And I can go back to say, the Apple Store is great, and you can go from there and so on. Legacy systems are not always extended to mobile. That's another challenge for this. So I was talking earlier about Blackboard, and even systems like this, I was talking with the IT and media people here, and they said that it took a lot of effort to make this presentation possible today. So kudos to you for helping me present as it should be presented on a wireless system that allowed me to move around a little bit and just be myself in presenting this stuff. So a lot of the systems are not adapted to the mobile world just yet, and that is a limitation. Now, to what extent will that happen in the future? That's a question for the market direction. Will Apple still remain the main or one of the most preferred ecosystems? That's hard to say because they've innovated and they continue to innovate, but the direction in which they're moving, it looks like they're probably going to develop software more than hardware, and yet their hardware is really good. So where will we see this development going will be very important because that determines the kind of software and hardware and business models and distribution platforms and the security protocols that they have, right? And that will be reflected in how we adopt technologies and how the students adopt technologies, and that's very important for us to recognize. I remember when I first started to teach here in 2012, there were a few Mac computers, and you will see a lot of, for example, HPs and Sony Vaios and things like that, a lot of Dell computers. And over time, we saw a bunch of tablets, so people will get a lot of tablets in, especially the Air tablets. And now all we see is Mac Air and MacBook Pros. Like all the time you see them in class because they have the bright Apple logo shining there just like yours. And that's definitely a change from what we see like going through this process of teaching and allowing the computers to be used in class and things like that. So what is the direction of development is very, very important, and that could be a challenge because they could provide tools to us that will be different from what we've seen and probably will require a little bit of a learning curve for us to adapt. Any questions? Yes?
Could you talk a little bit about how you're connecting wirelessly? I believe you're using Apple TV.
Yes, okay, so that's a great question. The question was how we connect wirelessly. So in this particular setting, I'm connecting through AirPlay to the computer. So basically it's a wireless signal that goes into the computer, and then the computer itself is connected through a normal VGA cord into, I guess it's into the switch of the room, and then from the switch of the room it sends signal to the media site platform, and eventually that's where the signal from the camera converges and they put it together. In my own classroom, I have Apple TVs, and I have to definitely recognize my IT team at the Hilton College. They're absolutely the best in the world. They want everybody to use Apple TVs, and they have bought Apple TVs for probably all of the rooms where most of the teaching takes place. I teach in a large room, and I remember I was the first one to buy the Apple TV for that classroom. And I remember we did a lot of testing over the summer. We were supposed to start the first day of the fall semester, and it was 2013. And in that week, before we were supposed to start, Apple did a major update. And then we went to school on Monday morning. I remember, I think it was 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning for my class. And I go into my classroom, and I meet with the IT folks, and they say, well, they did a major update, and nothing works right now. Your Wi-Fi doesn't work. Nothing. So, oh my gosh, that's okay, no problem. We'll revert back to, the PowerPoint. But wouldn't it be cool to just make it happen as we were planning to do?
So most professors could just bring in an AirPlay.
Absolutely, yes. So, yeah, exactly. So what they did, and again, for this, they are absolutely amazing. So they created a new Wi-Fi network for me, all secure and stuff. This is for my class. They brought a router in class. And we tried to crash it. We see like how many people, it was a large class, how many people it takes for it to crash, and it crashed. I don't know how many it crashed, but it did crash at some point, so we were restricting. But since you brought up the Apple TVs in class, what we did in that class was something really interesting. So I was using one iPad for teaching, for presenting the information, and I was distributing a number of, I think it was 10 or 11 iPads to students who worked in groups. And while they were working in groups to solve various problems according to the hospitality IT material, they could log in into the Apple system, share their screen with the class while they were working, not necessarily having finished the assignment yet. And that will definitely change the way everybody else will continue to complete their assignments. So I would go from group to see what they are doing, and they will connect and share the screen. Sometimes they will connect it at the end, sometimes they'll connect it midway through their task. But it was definitely something very interactive and completely changed the way they did it. At the end of all these activities, they had to eventually save the thing, upload it in the class's forum, and eventually served as an evaluative tool, as a great tool for discussion. What I found throughout that kind of experience was that the students were really proud of their work, and they were really eager to share. So we did this, we liked it, and it's really cool, and it's better than everybody else's so far. So that was really, really interesting. So yes, to go back to your question, everybody can come in with an iPad or a phone into the classroom and present. And I remember a few times I was trying to present from the phone, and it's really cool to present from the phone. You go in class like this, and you don't have anything, and when you talk to the students prior to the class, and then when the class starts, you pull up your phone, you connect it to the Wi-Fi, to the Apple TV, and you have exactly the same view. I think, in fact, the resolution was better if you presented from the phone than from the iPad. That was a few years ago. And it's quite impactful on the students, right? Because they will go and tell, well, my professor taught from an iPhone today. It was really interesting. The only problem, the only challenge is that you don't, like, if you don't know the material, you don't want to turn around and speak, to the screen, right? So basically, you have to know really well what's on the slides, because you can't see, I cannot see anything on that small screen. And I use an iPhone 5. Probably those have 6Ss, and 7Ss probably will see much better. But again, you can present from any platform. Now, about this is something really interesting happens in the hotel industry, and that's something that we study. In the hotel industry, people bring their own devices with them, and they try to connect them. They bring a phone, and they say, well, I have movies on my phone or on my iPad. I want to connect it to the in-room TV, which is typically, like HD, and they have a lot of channels, but there's still nothing on to watch, right? So they want to connect their content to the hardware that exists in the room, right? So sometimes they have a problem with that. And there are companies who would make little boxes like Apple TVs that are device agnostic, right? So you can connect not only an Apple device, but an Android device, pretty much any device, send signal to that box, and that box will convert it into TV signal. You can see it on the screen. So that's what the hotels are doing. I'm assuming something like this will be available for us to do, so you're not necessarily limited to presenting from an Apple tablet. I've seen the latest, for example, the latest Surface tablets. They're absolutely amazing. And I'm assuming that we'll see probably a lot more development in the hardware, which will be really, really interesting for everyone to use. So then you'll really recognize the individual instructor's preferences for specific hardware. You don't necessarily have to go to Apple. I prefer Apple. I thought it was a cool ecosystem for all the attributes, but others may have different preferences, and they can definitely do exactly the same stuff that I do with the iPad with other systems. Yes?
You said, like, if we were traveling, we could just use the iPad and then just bring the dongle.
Yes.
But you would not be portable like you were. You couldn't walk around the room.
The question was, when you travel to conferences, how portable is it when you connect it through a dongle? You'll still have to be connected through. So when you go to a conference, normally what they do is they will set up a projector on a cart with a VGA tool, or with a computer already connected through a VGA cord to the house system. And you'll still be connected. If you connect through the wire, you're limited to the length of the wire, right? So that's the limitation. Alternatively, and that's a question for all of us in the hotel industry to decide, because it depends on the business models of the hotels. In order for you to be able to connect wirelessly an Apple device to some sort of system from which the signal will go to a presentation screen, you'll have to be in the same Wi-Fi network. So you'll bring your own Apple TV, you'll bring your own iPad, but they have to be on the same network, and then the Apple TV you can connect it to there. I tried it once. I went to a conference to present like this wirelessly, and I had to pay, I think it was $50 for 1 day of internet access, because that's how hospitality industry is basically our own industry, is charging for this. So, and then you have situations where the hotels will respond to the number of devices that you bring. They say, how many devices you want to connect, they'll charge you per device. So sometimes travelers eventually will create hotspots in there and so on. But for me, to go to a conference and to not necessarily have to carry my computer is okay. If I can take, if I can have an opportunity to move around like this, to connect it wirelessly, I think it's absolutely great. It's a plus. But only the fact that I can take this and plug it into the VGA without necessarily having to upload anything on anybody's computer, I think it's a plus. For the most conferences that I've been to, I connected through the wire, and I was basically stuck to where the wire would extend. And I was just hoping that sometimes the conferences, they have these longer VGA cords because of the way they're positioning the switch, right? So you'll sometimes be lucky and have a long, like a few, I don't know, maybe a few yards of slack on the VGA cable, and you are able to move like midway through the room, and that'll be good enough. So I'm happy that I have this wireless device now, so I can move around. It's amazing in the classroom when you can move around and see the students what they do. It's really cool. So so that's that. Any other questions or comments or concerns? Yes, sir.
When you're at a conference, for example, are you running presentations in any other media through the cloud, or are you able to store them locally?
Okay, that's a great question. The question was, when I go to conferences, do I pull a presentation from the cloud, or it stays on the device? Okay. If I present here, for example, this is a presentation that I pulled on the device, but it's also connected to the cloud because I trust the Wi-Fi system. In a lot of hotels where I go, I don't necessarily trust the Wi-Fi system, so I go through a VPN when I connect to the network, because even if I log in with my credentials, to access the network is still a public network. So I don't necessarily trust that whoever is on that network has my best interest in mind. So I try to have everything on the device. And on those areas, in a lot of these cloud storages, you can have features that for every file, you can select to download the file on the device or to make it available offline. So I make sure that I have both the PDF slide deck that I'm going to present at the conference, but also like the original keynote or PowerPoint file. I have it available on the device, so I don't necessarily have to be connecting or paying for the Wi-Fi. In most cases, when I go to conferences in the United States, I tend to not pay for the Wi-Fi system because I'm going to use it for just connecting, like sending emails and things like that while I'm at the conference. And I tend to not pay that. I use the phone to respond to emails, and I can use, for example, the phone's carrier signal. I don't have to deal with the Wi-Fi of the hotel, but when I do, I usually use I use a VPN for security purposes. But I download everything on the device so that I don't have to have anything. Now that also forces me. So I choose the restrictions. Like I don't want to connect to the hotel networks and things like that. But and this kind of behavior forces me to finish everything at home, which is really interesting because like I take my mind off of, oh my gosh, I need to make this change, last minute change in the presentation. If I want to make a change in the presentation last minute, I'll just do this, right? Let's say I wanted to say just thank you today, and I don't want any concerns. In fact, I don't want any comments either. I want just the questions. Or maybe not questions either. I'll just say thank you, and that's it, right? So I can make changes like this. I don't think anyone would mind if I do this, but it forces me to just finish everything at home and then go to the conference, and that's that. So it's not such a big deal. Yeah, thank you for your question. Any other questions or comments or?
Can you give us a copy of your slides?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be happy to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can give you. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, definitely I can do that. Yeah. So the scratch part is something that everybody likes. Yeah, definitely. I can select the slides.
You'll send us out something.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your attention this morning. And if you ever want to use something, and if you want to ask for my opinion on anything, if you think that this is something that will help you, I don't know, adopt or change the way you teach, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you out. I know I always